Most of what you've been told about attraction is wrong. People say if a woman isn't interested, you should either try harder, prove yourself, or just walk away. But the reality is different, and it's not always easy to accept. Thoughtful. Women don't miss a man because they need him. They miss him because of the emotional impact he leaves behind, even when he's not there. This isn't about cheesy lines or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding how attraction actually works beneath the surface, and how you can position yourself in a way that shifts how a woman sees you over time. Even a woman who wasn't interested at first can start thinking about you, not by chance, but because something about you stays in her mind. Curious. And here's the key idea you need to understand. Indifference isn't permanent. It's just a response. And responses can change when the dynamic changes. Before you dismiss this, realize something important. Making a woman miss you has nothing to do with chasing her, convincing her, or proving your value. In fact, those are the fastest ways to push her away. Curious. Attraction doesn't grow when you try too hard. It grows when you become someone she can't easily replace in her mind. So instead of focusing on effort the way most men do, you need to understand what actually creates curiosity, respect, and eventually desire. Let's start with something most men don't want to hear. Pause. The more you chase, the less she feels. It sounds backwards, but it's true. When you go after a woman with too much intensity, constantly trying to show her how much you care, you shift the balance. Instead of her feeling drawn to you, she starts seeing you as someone seeking her approval, and nobody misses something that's always there. When your attention is constant, it loses its weight. There's no space for her to think about you because you're always right in front of her. Size. Think about it this way. If something is always available without effort, you stop valuing it. But when it's not always there, when it disappears for a while, you start noticing the gap. That's when desire begins. Curious. Chasing also reveals something deeper. It signals insecurity. It shows that you don't fully value yourself, because if you did, you wouldn't feel the need to prove your worth to someone who hasn't earned your effort yet. If you actually want her to start missing you, you have to step back, not as a trick, but as a shift in how you carry yourself. Thoughtful. Give her the space to feel your absence. Sometimes silence says more than anything you could send in a message. Now let's talk about communication. Most men think more communication equals more attraction. They send good morning texts, check in all day, and end with good night messages. Chuckles. It feels like effort, but it actually makes you predictable, and predictability kills curiosity. Think about it this way. If something is always available without effort, you stop valuing it. But when it's not always there, when it disappears for a while, you start noticing the gap. Thoughtful, that's when desire begins. Chasing also reveals something deeper. It signals insecurity. It shows that you don't fully value yourself because if you did, you wouldn't feel the need to prove your worth to someone who hasn't earned your effort yet. When your attention is constant, it becomes normal. She expects it. And once something becomes expected, it stops feeling special. But when there's a pause, when you're not always there, her mind starts asking questions. Curious. Where did he go? What is he doing? Why hasn't he reached out? That curiosity is powerful. It's what keeps you in her thoughts, even when you're not present. Your attention is valuable, but only if it's not always available. If you give it away freely all the time, it feels cheap. Thoughtful. When you hold it back naturally, it becomes something she notices and starts to want. This doesn't mean you ignore her or act immature. It means your life doesn't revolve around constant communication. You're not glued to your phone waiting for her reply. You're living your life, and that creates a natural balance. Exhales. Another mistake that destroys attraction is being too available. Many men think being there all the time shows dedication. In reality, it makes you easy to overlook. Chuckles. If you're always ready, always saying yes, always responding instantly, there's no challenge, no excitement. She knows exactly how you'll react every time. And when something becomes that predictable, it loses its edge. People value what they can't easily have. That applies to everything, including attention. When you have your own priorities, your own plans, and your own direction, You naturally become less available. Thoughtful. Not because you're trying to create distance, but because your life is already full, and that's what makes you interesting. A man who has his own world doesn't need to orbit around a woman. Curious. And that independence is what draws her in. Now let's talk about something most people misunderstand. Being too open too quickly can actually ruin attraction. Thoughtful. Honesty is important, but timing matters. When you reveal everything about yourself right away, there's nothing left to discover. There's no sense of intrigue. And without intrigue, there's nothing pulling her in. Attraction isn't built on logic. It's built on emotion. And emotion grows through curiosity. When a woman doesn't fully understand you, her mind fills in the gaps. Curious. She starts thinking about you, wondering about you, trying to figure you out. That mental engagement is what keeps her hooked. But if you explain everything, share everything, and remove all mystery, you take that away. Thoughtful. You become easy to read and easy to forget. Think about stories that keep you interested. Curious. It's always the unknown that pulls you in. The same principle applies here. When you leave space for imagination, you stay in her thoughts longer. Another trap men fall into is competing for attention. They see other men around her and try to stand out by doing more, saying more, or being more available. Size. But the moment you start competing, you lower your own value. You're sending the message that her attention is something you need to win. Thoughtful. Men who understand their worth don't compete. They don't rush to prove themselves. They don't try to outshine others. They focus on their own standard. When you stop chasing validation, everything changes. You no longer see her attention as something rare. Instead, you treat your own time and energy as valuable. Thoughtful. And that shift is powerful, because when you act like you're the prize, people start seeing you that way. Confident. Now let's get into something even deeper. Confidence. This is where most men fail. They think showing love, care, and effort is enough. But without confidence, all of that feels weak. Size. Confidence is what makes everything else work. It's not about being loud or arrogant, it's about being steady. It's how you carry yourself, how you speak, and how you make decisions without constantly needing approval. Thoughtful. A confident man doesn't need to prove himself. He doesn't second-guess every move. He doesn't bend just to keep someone interested. And that energy is what stays in a woman's mind. It's what makes her feel something deeper than just comfort. Thoughtful love might make her feel safe, but confidence is what creates attraction. Confident. And finally, there's one of the strongest triggers of all, the feeling of losing you. People don't value what feels guaranteed. They value what they might lose. If a woman believes you'll always be there no matter how she treats you, there's no urgency, no pressure, no reason to chase. Thoughtful. But the moment she feels your attention pulling away, something shifts. She starts thinking. She starts questioning. She starts imagining what life would feel like without you in it. Pause. That's when missing you begins. This isn't about manipulation. It's about self-respect. You're not pretending to leave. You're showing that your life doesn't depend on her. Confident that if she doesn't value your presence, you're willing to move forward. And that's what creates impact. That's what stays in her mind. At the end of the day, here's the truth. Thoughtful. Women don't miss the man who gives everything too easily. They miss the man who respects himself enough to step back, create space, and let his absence be felt. You can be kind, caring, and genuine, but if you don't understand how to create that space, you'll be forgotten. Thoughtful. The man who doesn't beg, who doesn't chase, and who knows his value, that's the man who stays in her thoughts. Confident. Now think about your own experience. Have you ever chased too hard and felt things slip away? Or have you ever stepped back and suddenly noticed her coming closer? Let me know your story. I genuinely like to hear it and help you understand what really happened. Curious. And if you're serious about understanding this on a deeper level, there's something you need to watch next on. It explains why giving too much loyalty too early can actually push a woman away and how to avoid that mistake completely. Thoughtful. Watch it, because once you understand that, everything you've learned today will make even more sense. And if you're serious about understanding this on a deeper level, curious, there's something you need to watch next on. It explains why giving too much loyalty too early can actually push a woman away, and how to avoid that mistake completely. Watch it, because once you understand that, everything you've learned today will make even more sense.